Hello, I'm Miss Matsuri from 118T. I would be teaching you how to use a jointer as part of the wood preparation for preparing your projects. Before I go through that direction, I want you to know that whatever lessons you're learning through the videos, either my videos or other videos, yes, you're getting the theory, yes, you may be understanding them, but that doesn't really qualify you to operate the machines without supervision. It doesn't qualify you to assume that you can go out there in the workplace and work and you're going to be fine. Operating the machine is similar to driving, and when you get in driver lessons, you get the theory, but you need to practice, and you need to practice with someone who is qualified to help you out to make sure they can prevent stuff, so they have the means of preventing anything. And that's when the real learning is happening. So having the knowledge does not mean that you have actually learned it. You just know, but once you can apply them safely, that's when you've got the knowledge. So have that in mind. We're doing this due to the pandemic. We're doing this so you can get the information and save time for the short time we have in class time. All right, so we'll go from there. The jointer is located very close to the planer. If you remember where the planer was, right there. So I'm just going to turn this around so you can have a look. That was a thickness planer when I showed you how to smooth the top and the bottom of a piece of wood. Also manage the thickness of the wood. The idea is that when you use a thickener planer, uh, you will actually get the two sides of the wood parallel to each other. So that's one thing about it. But and I did mention that that's what I show you to do is just because we have a very small jointer in the shop, and that's not really the way things are done. But you also learn that if you don't have a big jointer, what you can do. And after I finish teaching the jointer and one lessons, I will actually teach you how this is really done in the industry outside with a bigger jointer, but we don't have the means to show it. I'll just explain the theory, and I'm pretty sure you guys will get it because you're pretty smart. All right, so the jointer is located close to the planer because we operate them together, and it is the part of the blade is covered with a guard. So the concept is the same. You have a roller with three blades on. If you remember what I told you about the planer, there was a roller in the middle with three blades on. It's the same concept here, except the difference is in the planer, you had the lower roller with the blades and the top, and the wood was underneath. In the jointer, you have the roller right there, and you can put the piece on top and pass it through. So the guard here is protecting or covering basically the blade. And the first thing I would advise you to do is just always go like that. And if this guard does not automatically come back, that means the tension in the bottom. So let's change this camera. Hopefully you can see the tension in the bottom over here has been either loose or misadjusted, or screws might be missing, whatever the case may be. And you just don't do anything. You don't use it. You let me know. You call me, and we're gonna fix it. But as a rule of thumb, that's what you do. And I do check that. But anyway, so that's what you're going to be doing. So the roller is down there. You have two tables. These two tables don't have the same height for obvious reasons. One is lower, one is higher. And I want you to think to figure out which one is lower and which one is higher and why. Because we're passing the wood through here. So that's a thinking point of view to figure out why these tables are not the same height and which one is lower and higher. So the roller here turns in this direction, high speed, and the blades shave off the top, the part of the wood that is touching. The dust collector needs to be open at all times, and there is a measurement device, just like when you had with a planer, some indicator that you can adjust a certain dimension. So let's see if you can see that there's a handle here, and there are indicators here, again in millimeters. It goes up to 12 millimeters. What do you do? When you're jointing a piece of wood, you only need 1 millimeter. So you keep it at one. Don't think adjusting that to 5 is going to speed up your work. It might speed up your work, but it also destroys your work. So there's no point. If you need to take a lot of layers, you have to do multiple rounds, just as I did with the planer, to get to what you want. Now you may ask, why do we have 12 millimeters anyway if I'm only using 1 millimeter? That's something very interesting, which I learned also recently, um, is that we can use that to create certain joints. So that's a different lesson and something else about the jointer, which I won't be able to cover in this session. So you know there's a reason for those 12 millimeters. They were used to create some joints. Some of these machines, you can do multiple things with them once you know how to use them, and it's actually quite fascinating, to be honest with you. I love it. It's so great. Okay, we use a joiner to prepare wood. On the planer, we flatten these two side of the surfaces. This edge and that edge will not automatically be nice and smooth and neither straight. So we use a jointer here to get these flat and smooth. However, please remember that using the jointer does not guarantee getting these two lines parallel. When we use the planer, the idea was these two surfaces will be parallel, hopefully. I mean, when I say hopefully, it means that there are circumstances that the wood is wobbled a lot or warped a lot, and you can still do it. You can't just do it by putting it in and hoping it will happen, because you end up having no wood. Everything is going to get chipped off. So there is a technique involved in addressing that if you have a warped piece of wood for the planer. But if nothing is dramatically weird, you will get a parallel piece of wood, because you have a roller in the bottom, roller in the top, and they're holding in place, and they're maintaining their exact thickness all the way, just like the definition of a parallel line is. You have even distance between the two lines. In the jointer, that's not going to happen. You're flattening one side, you're flattening the other side. That does not guarantee a parallel line, two parallel lines, meaning it's not going to guarantee a constant width. So you can joint your wood and get it straight, but you're not getting it the same width. Please remember, that's the part that people make mistake. They joint it and they assume it's parallel. They start working and things go wrong. And so you need to know that. And I want you to think about it. And well, at some point on on live sessions, to tell me why I'm not getting parallel. And it's pretty simple. I think you know the answer. But anyway, that's the way it is. So in order to do that, and I'm not starting it up now, you know that you know about my allergies, and I have to wear a mask and shield. And the shield is, you know, for your safety protection as well. The basic safety rules of the shop and operating is that you wear goggles, you make sure your hair is tied back, nothing hanging loose on you. Your ears are open so you can actually hear if anyone shouts and yells and say I'm hurt or something goes wrong, or a variety of reasons. And I've asked you to have your 5 senses, you know, operating, and taste is not one of them. So you figure out which one is the 5th one. Anyway, the way you hold it, you take your piece of wood, you put it flat on the table against the fence of the jointer, you turn the machine on, and you roll this through that. And the roller turns and joins this edge off. Now, what I want you guys not to do in my class, okay, remember, not to do, I don't want your fingers lower than this blue line. So basically, if you have a small piece of wood, you do not joint. Can we joint it? Yes. Are there ways of doing it? Yes. We can't cover the whole thing in this session, and people get bored of watching the videos anyway. So I'll do that in the next time. Just know, I don't want your fingers anything lower than that. Your hands are up here. You're holding it steady against the fence. You pass it through all the way, and then you take it out. And you check, and you might not get the result you want right away. You might have to go 2-3 rounds. Unlike the planer that you had to adjust the handle to go 2-3 rounds, here you don't have to adjust anything. You've already put on 1 millimeter and you go through. And think about it. Why am I not adjusting? What's the difference in the operation of this and that one? And these are the things you need to think about. You'll figure it out. You don't figure it out, talk to me in class. That's how your learning is happening. All right, so we're gonna go through that. Now, if you have a piece of wood with the edge over here, which is sort of, if you can see through the camera, slanted, if I wanna get rid of this whole thing, I'm gonna be jointing for a very long time, cutting 1 millimeter off all the way. Then you're gonna decide, do I actually need to go all the way, or having a straight edge here would suffice for me to proceed with my work? If having the straight edges suffice, which means that, why do I need a straight edge anyway? I'm putting it against a fence, maybe somewhere else. That's why I need a straight edge, or other reasons. So think about that. If that's enough, then you just flatten this side. As long as it's flat, you leave it. If this has to get away from your work, I'm not going to use a jointer to get rid of this. I'm going to put this on the table saw, put this side by the fence and just rip this whole thing off with a rip cut. Do you remember what a rip cut is? Rip cut is when you're doing what? Using a fence. Good. If you said that, good for you. If you forgot, well, check your notes. That's why you take notes and write your journal. So that's you're gonna go all the way. Now I told you this here, this is right now set up for 90 degree. So if we have a look over here, it is set up. I get a tri-square, I can check here it's 90 degree. I'll go. I can actually tilt this sideways so I can joint a piece of wood, meaning that this edge would not be 90 degree. I can actually choose my angle and joint it. It's fascinating. I mean, these people who designed these machines years ago, they were just geniuses. Anyway, so that you can turn. I can adjust the width of this opening with the hand. Oops, sorry. So there's so many things you can do with a certain machine which we can really not cover in the short lessons that we're having, which even the shortness is taking like 40 minutes, and I'm learning people don't have the attention span anymore, or maybe they have too much things to do. Anyway, so we can't really do that as much. I'm gonna be jointing another piece of wood, a white piece of wood, and I have to wear masks and also turn dust collector on for that. So see you now. Flat surface, nice flat surface over there. I'll be back. Okay, so I managed to join the two sides. I am aware they're not parallel. I'm aware it has some rough edges, but that's worked fine with me. I had a wide piece of wood, meaning it's heavy, meaning there's a chance it's going to tilt over. So when I'm holding it, I'm going to be mindful of that. And again, yeah, it's difficult to remember all of these in theory. Even if you remember it, when you start working in action, you need to draw back from all those tiny things that you have stored in your brain cells. And it's not as easy to do that but it's very easy to do it once you actually do the work in practice, because just like anything else, I don't think you really think when you go up the stairs how to lift up your foot or how to get out of bed. These are the skills that you learned much earlier and became autopilot at it. So have those in mind. Again, this is what we're going to do in these times, and hopefully we'll get a chance to work in class. So the things I want you to know: when we talked about the planer, I told you about the minimum things and maximum piece of wood you can put in the planer. Same thing with the jointer. Now, how tall can the piece be to be jointed? Well, really, it can be as any tall that you can handle it. And again, if there's no support in the back, we have to come up with systems of support. But one thing is very important, and it's about the grain. You remember I talked about when I taught the planer, it has to go with the grain. When you're cutting a surface off, you're going with the grain. So I'm holding a piece of wood which doesn't really look like a rectangle, so you might not even see the grain to the pictures, but these knots here, which are probably darker, might help you see the line. So the grain is going in this direction. Now the other piece of wood I was holding, I'm gonna grab it. Sorry about that. The grains are probably much more clear in the video that you're seeing. So this is the direction of the grain you're going. these two sides will be the end grain, or against the direction of the grain. And I hope you remember when you're doing cuts, we had a rib cut and we had a cross cut and we had some other cuts, but the cross cut was against the direction of the grain using a miter gauge. So these are all reviews as well as you're doing it. Question would be, I prepared my wood, flat, jointed the corners. How do I deal with the ends? Do I go back on the jointer like that and do it? And that is something you never do. You never do. That's just a no. There are some things are no, some things we can find ways of doing it, but this is a no. So I want you to think about this. You have grains going in this direction. The blade is going to go inside here, rip it open. That's why we call it a rip cut. Rip it open, and it's just going to damage the wood. So this thing you never do. You can also slip, because when it opens up, you can slip this way. And unlike the planer, if you've noticed, the sound of the jointer was less. The planer makes a much louder sound, but this is more dangerous than the planer. Here, if you slip, you can get your fingers chewed up, and this is no joke. So no, you don't do that. There's things you don't do. And I remember one of the safety rules is that when you're not sure, 100% sure what you're doing, you ask. Okay, so you have got to be 100% sure whatever you're doing. And even if you're sure, still ask. That's why I'm here, yes? So you ask. So this thing you never do. Now you might say, I have a wide piece of wood like that. Same thing with the planer. If a piece of wood is just like that, but the grain are going this direction, it's the same rule. You just don't do. Some things you don't do. It's not like I want to do it. What if I can do it? Or can I experiment with this? And no, you just don't do it. Small pieces. Now this is with the grain. The grain are going this way, so it seems like the right direction. Don't. Smaller than the 1 foot or 30 centimeters or 12 inches, just small pieces, don't. Bottom line, anything that might probably cause any harm to you, you don't. And I've told you, when I've taught you bandsaw and the other stuff in person, is that when I'm doing things, I'm thinking, where would my fingers be at the end of the cut? Not the beginning of the cut, not in the middle of the cut, the end of the cut. So I'm trying to picture ahead. I'm starting here, this is where I'm going, this is where it comes out. And that helps you. That helps you see, is this a wise thing to do? Does it make sense to do? Do I need anything else to help me along the way to do that? Or should I just not do this? It's absolutely stupid. Well, you don't do stupid things, hopefully, in life, or not deliberately, at least. And then, these things help you in your planning, because this is decision making. You want to plan something. You want to say, I want to do this thing in my life. Where would I be at the end of what I'm doing? So, if you're wasting 2 hours of your day doing nothing and passively watching other people live their lives, which seems to be a common thing for a lot of people to do these days, is that they're just sitting in front of a browser and just watching people live their lives. Well, good, fine, you're entertained. Where are you going to be in 5 years if you continue that? Where are you going to be in 1 year if you continue that? How many hours of your life have you just watched other people live? Oh, if you really like that, then go on. Anyway, that's the jointer. That's the kind of cut. That's what I used to prepare the piece of what I gave you for your teardrop box. All right, good. Let's see if we can get anywhere with this. Thank you.